Very good afternoon to everybody. We have 30 slides, but time is very less. Sorry, but last presentation, no problem. We had a lesson to Dr. Sivaramani as a Siddha medicine physician. For those who don't know about Dr. Sivaraman, he has played a pivotal role in translating traditional wisdom base and integrating it into everyone's life. And he has a mission to advocate Siddha-based lifestyle to the global community to attain health and harmony. We are at the last scientific session of this landmark scientific conference, but we are certain that this conference would mark a new era in scientific understanding of sky practices. I would like to thank the president and the management team for organizing this conference to facilitate understanding the scientific basis of Kayakalpa and bridging the gap between philosophy and the science of sky practices. For the past 1.5 days, we have been listening to various salvets, contemplating on the convergence of the science and spirituality. I would like to start this presentation with a question: why is simplified Kundalini Yoga, and how is simplified Kundalini Yoga unique from any other type of axis or practices? Yogiraj Vethathiri Maharishi designed these comprehensive techniques that are easy to adopt in everyday life to attain health, happiness, harmony, peace, and lead a stress-free life in synchrony with nature. Though the research at this institute is a nascent stage, this institute, having trained over 5 million people in this technique, as designed and advocated by Maharishi, stands testament to its beneficial effects. We have basic research infrastructure existing in the campus that we routinely use for our studies. We have biochemistry lab, instrumentation to perform electrophotonic imaging, assess ECG, EEG, and also perform psychometric assessments. We are in the process of establishing a full-fledged autonomic function testing laboratory as a physiology lab. We have 3 ongoing research studies in the campus, and the one study being conducted in the collaboration with the Premier Institute of India for Neurosciences, the National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, Bangalore. As on date, we have 180 publications, published research papers, and under a special initiative to propagate the message of Swamiji, we have adopted over 300 plus villages, trained the public in yoga and helped them overcome addiction, combat suicidal tendencies, and also prevent and treat non-communicable diseases. As part of this initiative, we offer vocational training to women that would be help them generate revenue for their family. Showing the snippet of the results that we achieve at the 30 days residential health camp, we obtained tremendous benefit just with sky yoga and simple dietary modification. Already told Dr. Sivaraman sir, the millet-based diet. We have consistently noted the BMI to reduce sugar level and blood pressure levels to get optimized, and quite a good number of people participating in the camp would be taken off medication. And we do follow them up after getting discharged to have a track of their blood pressure and sugar levels. The most of them continue to have good control, provided they follow the practices and right lifestyle measures. You can see the difference. The HbA1c levels, one of the pre-test is 13.9 and post-test 10.6. So difference is 3.3 within a month. Is a tremendous reduction of HbA1c level in type 2 diabetes mellitus. Apart from yoga practice, we do administer Siddha herbal drugs, Siddha medicine to certain patients wherever indicated, sharing a case of PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, whose ultrasound scan of abdomen show complete reversal of cysts in ovaries. And we are happy to share that we have over 25 women who we are able to get pregnant after reversing the PCOS just in this year. And the intervention that we gave was Kai Yoga, diet modification and Siddha medications. Similarly, we were able to drastically reduce the HbA1c levels by 50% over a period of 6 weeks. These values might not be acceptable to the modern medical world, but this is the kind of results that we see at our clinic regularly. Adding to this, we manage renal calculi non-invasively. Sharing the radiological reports before and after the inversion is a completely recovery from the calculus. Like skin disorders, especially psoriasis is difficult to cure completely unless they are administered with steroid drugs. But here is an image of patient with the Palmoplantar psoriasis being treated and cured completely with integrated approach of Sky Yoga and Siddha system of medicine. Another case I would like to share this that of patient with increased creatinine levels, the acute chronic diseases. We are able to reduce the creatinine levels by around 50% in just 15 days. It's a miracle one and almost normal in 3 months in time. Show the reports. And I would like to present a case whom we are able to completely resolve the focal collection of lymphoidal nodes, mass anterior inferior to the left hemisphere using Sky Yoga and Siddha herbal medicine. It's a PET CT scan report. Is a patient from Mumbai. We routinely manage a case from another one with bronchial asthma, PCOS, osteoarthritis and autoimmune disorders. The lymphnodal mass is completely clear. Patient treated with 1.5 years. A study of Kai meditation techniques demonstrated increase in delta and theta spectrum in EEG while performing medication. Also, studies in diabetes have shown significant reduction in HbA1c levels and achieve better glycemic states. Sky Yoga practices demonstrated reduction in diabetes associated depression and anxiety. In young adults and adolescents, Sky Yoga practices were able to reduce anger, stress, anxiety and helped improve balance in static posture and also help improve flexibility. Studies have also demonstrated improvement in muscle endurance. In school children, the academic performance improved and examination associated stress level is reduced. Similar to studies at the other school of yoga, Sky Yoga practices demonstrated better breath holding capacity and improvement in total lung volume and forced vital capacity. A study on changes in general health following Sky practices reported 68% reduction in somatic symptoms, 66% in reduction in anxiety, 65% of reduction in social dysfunction, 87% reduction in depression, and most importantly, 71% reduction in medical complaints. In hypertensives, Sky Yoga practices were able to improve quality of sleep and also lower the systolic and diastolic blood pressure. And in patients with dyslipidemia, as expected, the cholesterol, LDL and VLDL levels also reduced significantly. And I will pass into my co-chairperson, Dr. Ragavendrasamy. Another 15 slides. Dr. Ragavendrasamy is a yoga naturopathy doctor. He is working in government medical officer in nearby Udamalpete Government Hospital. He is completed in PhD in Asia's first yoga university in Bangalore. He studied more and more. Research is more and more. Please come and see. Thank you all.
good evening to the august audience present here. So at the outset, I thank the management and the esteemed dignitaries who are here. And it's my privilege to stand in front of you to present whatever work I have done in the past decade. Small little ones I would like to summarize. For want of time, I'll kind of rush through. So the first question is, which has been for the past over 30, 40 decades, whether yoga is something which has to be experienced or something which has to be experimented. So just rolling back 2-3 decades, let's prepone. 2-3 decades ago, yoga has been something like a mystic, a science of mysticism more than a science. But one thing that was commonly observed in these sages was that they were all able to live long, they were healthy. Right? So it was early in 1920s and 1930s, Swami Kubalayananda, he wanted to document, he wanted to study how yoga works. So he came up with this first text called as Yoga Mimamsa, where he documented scientifically these extraordinary feats. So he, along with Dr. B.K. Anand from All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Dr. Venga from UK, along with few more scientists like Bakshi, Dr. Chinna, they had traveled all over India trying to identify these scientists, these sages who were able to perform extraordinary feats. So there was one Swamiji called as Yogi Ramanand. He claimed that he can bury himself under the ground for like 29-30 days. So documenting or recording electrical signals below the ground was not possible there. So they developed a glass chamber which was like 6 feet by 4 feet, and he confined himself into it for like 10 hours. And in that period of 10 hours, he was locked. No air was going inside, but still what happened? He survived. His initial 1 hour, his metabolic rate increased, but following 9 hours, he reduced his metabolic demand to 25%, which means 75% reduction in metabolic demand voluntarily. Proceeding further, this same yogi, when he was in state of meditation, despite giving an auditory stimulus, a tactile stimulus, a thermal stimulus, it did not evoke any electrical change in EEG spectrum, which means he was able to voluntarily control involuntary functions. Proceeding further, one more yogi, a contemporary yogi, who was there like 30 years ago, Swami Rama. There is one famous book of him, Living with the Himalayan Masters. So he was able to increase his heart rate when a command was given to how much? 300 beats a minute, which is atrial flutter. Nobody can survive in that heart rate. But he was able to reverse it back to normal, all with a command. And he was also able to demonstrate 10-degree temperature difference at 2 ends of the same palm. How was it possible? We do not know. Science does not have answer to how these people were able to demonstrate it. And one more yogi from Chennai, he was able to decrease his cardiac activity to a certain extent that we were not able to hear his heart sounds using a stethoscope. How was it possible? We do not know. So, one more Tibetan Buddhist meditation technique called as Ji Tummo meditation. These practitioners were able to increase their body temperature to 5 to 15 degrees Celsius inside laboratory environment, which is not normal, a temperature where a human cannot survive, right? So, but it is normal to them. How are they able to do it? We do not know. So, we have several questions which remains unanswered. All these are scientifically documented studies. And there was one more yogi who was able to stop the electrical activity of heart for 9 long hours, and he was able to revive it back. How was he able to do it? We do not know. So, what do we know about yoga? So, this evoked an interest, trying to understand what is yoga doing to the human body. How is it changing the human body? Hearing for the past 1.5 days, we all would have heard yoga helps. What is yoga? But unlike other systems of medicine, we always say paracetamol for fever. A specific medication, maybe metformin for reducing blood glucose level. Antihistaminics for allergy. But in case of yoga, it is the same yoga. We administer the same yoga practices for various spectrum of disease conditions. But it works. How does it work? We have answer to it, and science has managed to answer certain questions of it, and still we have a huge avenue waiting in front of us to explore and understand how yoga works. So, putting few evidences in front of us, Kapalabhati, one of the practices which is a part of simplified Kundalini Yoga, which our Swamiji has been advocating. This is a Kriya practice. This is a cleansing technique. What happens when an individual practices Kapalabhati? Immediately after practice, there is a sympathetic overdrive, which means my heart rate increases, my blood pressure increases. But after that phase, my heart rate decreases. There is a profound parasympathetic predominance. But one interesting phenomenon with Kapalabhati is, usually for oneself to have a better attention, it is usually understood that an individual has to have a slightly enhanced sympathetic overdrive. But in case of yoga practitioners, despite having a parasympathetic predominance, their attention was better. So the way how yoga works in individuals is slightly different. That means the physiology associated with the yoga practitioners itself is kind of different as compared to non-yoga practitioners. And in case of breath holding, people who were able to hold their breath for longer periods of time, there was a reduction of 19% in oxygen consumption. So how does this all happen? By regulating the breath. So there is one science called as Swara Yoga. Today morning, Madam had explained about the science of Swara Yoga, that is the left nostril and right nostril. I leave one question for you to linger upon. Nature, when we were evolved as humans, we could have designed with one nostril, right? Why did we have two nostrils? And beyond a certain point, it is just a single tube which is going inside. But this septum makes the difference. So why at all did we have two nostrils? A point for us to think upon. But study says that when you have your left nostril to be predominant, you have your parasympathetic tone to be predominant. And if you have your right nostril to be dominant, you have your sympathetic tone to be predominant. One other real day application, you can check which nostril of yours is dominant. If you have your left nostril to be dominant, you'll be feeling sleepy. If you're attentive, I'm certain, 100% certain, that you'll be having your right nostril to be predominant. So initially, you have techniques to change your nostrils, basically to regulate your physiological process to suit the need or the type of activity that you're carrying out. This technique is detailedly explained in a text called as Swara Yoga. So proceeding further, the process of disease manifestation. Our Krishna, right? So whom we take as a real life inspiration. So he explains before 5,000 years ago to Arjuna, who was kind of in a state of confusion, what is the process of an individual to destroy himself? He says it's all about misplaced desire. So when an individual has a desire, he develops attachment to it, and going downstream, he destroys himself. This is what Maharishi, our Buddha, says. It is mindfulness, that is staying in the present. Do not fast forward, but do not rewind. Live in the present. Living in the present reduces your stress, and you will be able to lead your life happily. So taking example or taking cues from that, we wanted to understand how much of an impact this repetitive negative thinking or anticipatory worry or rumination, this we call it as perseverative cognition. Perseverance isn't all the way positive, right? Perseverative cognition means it's about negative. That is an individual having a repetitive negative thinking, right? So all this, we did a study trying to understand what is the impact that it is causing over pulmonary functions in healthy individuals. We saw that this rumination is a strong determinant of airway resistance and the total lung capacity. And proceeding further, we wanted to understand if this repetitive negative thinking is having such a huge impact over lung functions, definitely it is going to have an impact over pathological states as well. So we did a study where we administered a guided meditation technique to diabetic patients. So diabetes, as we all have been hearing, it has to be managed from multi-pronged approach, right? So diet plays an important role, medicine plays an important role, and these days we have also started speaking about mind management, right? So we gave only mind management as an intervention along with medication, and we saw that their sleep scores become better, diabetes-associated depression became better, and we were able to achieve better clinical results by reducing the need for medication. So having said that sleep plays an important role, what does yoga do to an individual's sleep? So what we saw was that if you see the yoga group, these people who are practicing yoga, they were able to transcend to deeper stages of sleep immediately as soon as they go to bed. Whereas in case of non-yoga practitioners, if you see, they kind of are in wakeful state, then gradually they are descending to deeper stages of sleep. For those who know, who are aware of sleep medicine, they usually say those who are into having sleep depth, they will be the ones who will be able to just go to bed and go into deeper stages of sleep, right? So this is classical signature of people who are having sleep depth. But In case of individuals who are having sleep debt, the following day they will be having a sympathetic overdrive. But in people who are practicing yoga, they did not have sympathetic overdrive. Rather, they had a parasympathetic predominance in the following day. So, going back to the philosophy, so mind plays a very, very important role. So what do we do with this mind? So Yoga Vasishta says, Yoga Vasishta says the root cause of disease starts with the mind. Whenever there is a disturbance in the mind, it is going to disturb the pranamaya kosha, and it is going to manifest as a pathology in this gross physical body based upon an individual's physical status, the environment that an individual is in, and his genetic makeup. So the stress is the same, but the way how it is manifesting is purely dependent upon the environment that an individual is in, his genetic makeup, and the psyche with which he is going to live. So this is a model where we have kind of developed to say how this anticipatory worry is going to result in aging. So this is a study which we did in extreme environmental conditions of Antarctica. I will not take too much time, just 30 seconds more. So we did a study trying to understand how yoga facilitates adaptation in extreme environmental condition of Antarctica. This was my doctoral work. And what we saw, this was the first kind of study to be done in Antarctica and also in a confined environment with yoga. So what we did was a global gene expression, and we just took those genes which are associated with stress. And we took genes that were twofold overexpressed or twofold repressed or underexpressed. Those that are expressed colored red are overexpressed, and those that are colored blue are underexpressed. So just with this understanding, if you look at this image, you can see this is the genes associated with the stress in the control group. If you see, most of them are red, which means they were all overexpressed. All the genes associated with stress, they were all overexpressed. That is, a state of chaos probably was there inside the cell. Whereas in case of yoga group, you can see most of it was blue, which means probably the body was handling stress relatively cool. It was not getting overreactive. Right? So with this, I stop. With this, I leave you to think. Yoga, we have multiple components. But despite that, we need to approach yoga with a holistic perspective. Yoga works on the body with a perspective as a whole, right? It does not target where it needs to work. But what does it do basically? We came up with this concept where at multiple levels we were able to see that yoga somehow understands, we do not know how, but it somehow understands what it needs to do to this body at that point of time, taking into consideration his genetic makeup, the environment that he is in, purely in the interest of an individual's body towards adaptation and survival. So thank you for this opportunity. And thank you. And it is my humble submission in front of this august audience, in front of learned, experienced experts, that we would like to collaborate with you, and we want to take this wisdom base to newer heights, trying to understand and translate it into valid science and take it to the betterment of the humanity and mankind. So thank you for this opportunity. And I would like to end with my favorite quote from Buddha, Appamado amatavadam appamado machunopadam, which is appramada, which means mindfulness. Being mindful is the key to bliss, and being unmindful is the way to self-destruction. It is up to us to determine how we have to be, whether we want to uplift ourselves towards bliss or take us to the way of destruction, epigenetics. So, how do we do it? Maharishi Patanjali has the answer to it. It is abhyasa vairagyabhyam tanirodha. It is purely through abhyasa, practice. Is practice sufficient? Vairagya, dedicated practice, persistent practice. It is what is going to yield fruits. So with this, I thank one and all for patient hearing. And sorry, I've taken 5 more minutes extra than the time allotted to me. Thank you.